Happy New Year, Ubuntu.
Happy New Year.
All right. This is the screen. So it's a global, it's for achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. So last time we went into, we started, why are we discussing a new vision, a leap change, a transformational change for Africa. The SDGs started in 1915. They were approved by 193 nations throughout the world. The first time general consensus document signed in New York, September 27, 1915. That was a marquee event. However, what is the progress in Africa? Not too much. Some of the existing situations that is happening show that Africa needs to go faster. And for this, I indicated something. I started with 4 of my 10 goals. As we go forward, what do we want to achieve? Every family in Africa must afford a home, a modern home with apartment, running water, electricity, appliances, and so on. They must be able to afford it. It's the 21st century. They must be able to raise their productivity and achieve and get all these things. It's not happening. It's not moving at all. The second goal, every school child must be going to school to get the necessary education to be ready for the new and changing way of life. And all capable people have work in diversified economic sectors that more than pays for their needs in their improved standard of living. And the environment restoration is proceeding well with decreased deforestation. Means we have to have electricity in every home, as shown in goal 1. This has to be happening. And number 4, there is an efficient healthcare system that takes care of every person wherever they are, they need it, whenever they need it, and not far away from where they live. Are any of these things happening? These are the goals. Also, these are also the goals in the Sustainable Development Goals. So once we know where we are going, we try to set a stage, a stage to a reference. Are we really dreaming this in the open space, or we have a reference? As far back as 71 years ago, in 1949, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights were unveiled or approved by the majority states at the United Nations. It is for everyone to have a standard of living adequate for the health and well-being of himself and the family, including food, clothing, housing, medical care, and necessary social service. Also, to a security in the event of unemployment, sickness, disability, widowhood, old age, and other lack of livelihood in circumstances beyond his or her control. This is a declaration that was applied and used, and on the majority being practiced in the developed nations. Why? What happens to Africa and the developing countries? Why is it not there? Well, in addition to that, they remind us with what we call the Human Development Index. The Human Development Index, the life expectancy, which is the health of every person, is measured or assessed and reported as a big annual report and monthly updated for every country. The education level, the annual income of every person in any country. All these three indices, which are called the health index, the education index, are updated every year. Well, let me show you, I shared with you last time. In the past 5 years, Ethiopia basically hasn't moved at 173rd position out of 189 countries. And I checked yesterday again, the latest reports, Nigeria is at 161 position. It was 158, 57 in the last 4 or 5 years. Yesterday I saw it, I checked it again, it is at 161 position in the Human Development Index. Why are we there? We are producing so many people, so many intelligent people, and sending them abroad. Why are we there? Then, as a recap, and poverty and hunger, food security, ensure healthy lives, quality education, achieve gender equality, water and sanitation for all, energy for all. Again, the 17 Sustainable Development Goals are there. So, coming with those what I started with, the 4 goals, the 4 out of 10 goals in my book, is not out of the blue. So we have to have something. We have to do something different. Okay. Then I walked you through this guiding lights. With the right drive, motivation, and enviable goals, people can build, achieve anything. We are all human beings. We have, the 6 senses we should be able to do. In addition, we are blessed with a beautiful weather, a good climate, and an abundant natural resources. We have to stop inhibition, fear, cannot do it. We discussed some of it. We're going to go back to it today. Developing countries must focus on addressing their needs using their own resources and means. We are dependent. They made us to be dependent with continuing handouts, so-called aids, which are tied with to the interests of the donors rather than to the recipient nations. Stop brainwashing the people with an education that's not transferable to their country's needs. Well, because the education system is not geared to the needs of the countries, most of the graduates at every level don't have jobs, and those jobs, instead, many of them end up in other countries. So there must be a different, customized education system that really addresses the needs of the community. Don't just feed us, copy the education system that is not changing the lives of the people. Every citizen in every country can be deployed to use the resources and make a favorable change to that country. So these were the things. Then I went to the realities of the country. I talked about there is human suffering, hunger, and so on, high mortality, lack of awareness, many people living out in isolated, scattered villages, rural villages, and so they are not getting water or electricity because it's not cost effective. The donors or the foreign experts come up and build us a village here, a small school there, and so on. We are grateful for that, but really it has to come from us. So we have to overcome some of these things. So we'll be going through this, and so I went through this. I want you to really focus on this. These are the realities in the 21st century. These are the realities of people making ends meet. Children as early as 3-4 years old are required to help in collecting water. Okay, these are the crowded markets. People are spending days walking on foot to go to markets to exchange. In this day in life, we are doing all our shopping online or going to a supermarket that has abundance in within 15-20 minutes drive. Look at these people squatting throughout the day trying to produce their life. Okay, it is all over Africa. Why? Can we really live with this and pass our share in this planet, leaving this kind of legacy behind? Or can we go really change this? Can we engage the people? Well, we are not always, we were never always behind. Look at this. This is the Ethiopian people created or carved 11 churches underground. Look on the right, on the left, you see the extent of the rocks, and that is a church. 11 churches, all carved from a stone as early as the 12th century. Okay. How about the Americans? Were they always blessed and rich like this? No, they were not. They dug. Look at this. Lake Erie to Hudson River in New York. They dug this trench, okay, a Honda canal connecting the two water bodies. More importantly, these two areas are not of the same elevation. Okay, it is 584 kilometers long. Oh, there is an elevation difference of 174 meters. 174 meters the ship climbs. So in order to do that, they built what they call locks. The water level is managed in the same way as the steps. And that they built this in 1821. Look at this. They didn't have machinery to dig this. They used hoes and shovels. So we should be able to shovel those. So that is the recap of what we were. We have to do something about it. Okay. Do you have any questions? Shall I pause here, or shall I continue to today's session?
I think continue to the next session, and then we can take some questions after you're done.
All right. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. In a nutshell, in a ball, this is the reality in Africa today. Okay. We have to depict this, disrupt, paradigm shift, innovate, create value to change and live change. Okay. Let's deconstruct the issues. People are unaware of a better way of life because they are isolated. They don't, many of them in many parts of Africa, they don't know that water can be into their bedrooms, into their kitchens, running water. Because they are isolated, they don't even have television. They don't have television. They don't have electricity. Now some mobile phones are getting in there. Of course, there is some variation in the extent, but there are still people in these countries that are in that kind of situation. Education system inapplicable, because whatever I said before, it is a different kind of education is required. A just-in-time education, lack of industrialization, lack of economic diversity, low productivity, and I talked about scarcity germs. These are the problems that are out there. Now, what do we have to do? Apply depict. Now, what is depict? Disrupt. Damaging, unhealthy, inefficient processes, systems, and ways have to be replaced with new, constructive, healthy, efficient, and cost-effective systems. Just look around you. Look around you. Are we going to live with people walking the whole day to buy their basic necessities? No, we should not. We have to disrupt those. Okay? We have to have a paradigm shift that is applicable. Knowledge we have to construct knowledge doing it. Okay, we have to adopt can't do it mentality. We have to forget this can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not trained. I'm not capable. This is not my job. That kind of, we stop following orders. Let's follow our passion. Let's learn 24/7 wherever is convenient. Let's not be crammed into a class that is not taking us anywhere. Let's not work alone. Let's work in teams. You know, our education has to be design-based. Design-based. We have to design what we are going to learn. Okay, innovation. Innovation is the intersection of three dominant principles. Desirability. Do people need that new, improved, modified technology or process? Is it viable? Is it, you know, does it make sense? Is it cost effective? Okay, is it technically feasible? So these three intersections of three principles or three disciplines defines what we call innovation. Innovation, in addition to being an intersection of these three disciplines, it has to engage or affect the lives of millions of people. That is the definition of innovation. What we are going to do will be, we have to do, for instance, construction work that is going to be a welcome by the people. In order to have it a welcome by the people, people have to be involved in it. They have to be engaged in it. They have to contribute not only their labor, but their thinking, their principles, their experience. It has to be technically visible. It should not be a road to nowhere. It has to be a road where it can integrate people. It has to be technically visible. Well, that is not a shortage in this time of the civilization. You know, using the cloud, any of us, you know, can be able to be enablers or helping the majority to be able to have the latest technique, the latest science, the latest engineering to be applied. So if we do build infrastructures, if we build those schools or those social systems, we have to be able to do them with engagement of all stakeholders. That is the innovation that we are trying to do. Create value. We don't take people's money for nothing. We wanted to make that money to plant it as a seed and grow value out of it. Unless we create value, we shouldn't even touch it. What's happening? Aid comes to African countries, you know, millions of dollars. Instead of using that money efficiently, up to 80% of it is spent on external consultants that are paid 100 times a local qualified professional. So the donors tithe on a principle that it be done by their own external consultants. So what happens, some of the grants or loan money is, instead of creating value, is helping themselves. In addition, it's also accumulating interest, encumbering the country in the years to come. And finally, we have to transform unhealthy, sad life into a prosperous, peaceful, enjoyable life. That is depict. So all of you learn depict. Let's depict everything that is in front of us. How do we do that? Well, okay, this is a leap change. A leap change. Many countries, including some of the ambitious plans that have been passed in different countries, show that 10% GDP growth every year. AU 2063 plans on a continuous 6% GDP growth in the continent of Africa. And that is the reason why Africa is not going to be a major, will not have a major picture after that period. 10% of a small figure, even 20% of, say, a country's resources, like if we take Nigeria, of about 4,000 per capita income, if we put 10%, it's $500. $500, going to change from year to year. And even if at a compounded rate, it's never going to reach the average rate of Europe, which is around 40,000 per person per year. So we have to, in Ethiopia, it's about $2,000, and that $2,000, if we go 10%, it's about $200. Accumulating $200 per year is not going to get us anywhere near the developed nations. So we have to make a leap. Unless we make a leap, unless we have the productivity of every individual rise tenfold, 10 times, from 2,000, say, $2 US per day to $4 US a day, or $20 US a day, people cannot be able to afford their food, their shelters, their livelihood, their health care. Okay, so in order to be able to do that, we need a leap change that can overcome the crisis. And leaps are the ones that trigger those rises. Okay, this is nothing different. In nations, organizations, mega projects, radical transformations happen. If you see the growth of a country or a project, the progress of a project, it continues in a very steady fashion. Then all of a sudden they inject some new ideas, new funds, or new approaches. Then it rises into a different plane. It goes higher. In science, if you go back to your calculus, in any field, there is that function, and that function, the maximum rate of change happens at the asymptote, at the discontinuity, at a breaking point. So that breaking point triggers leap change. So in other words, the level of crisis that is all over Africa at this stage is really a signal that in order to be able to make it favorable, it has to undergo a leap change. That is the rise at the asymptote. Leap change goals, we have to have, all those basic human necessities met. We have to have, instead of majority agricultural economy, we have to have a balanced economic system. We have to have a leap change in productivity, and we have to achieve the universal human rights, improve the Human Development Index, and we achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, how do we make a leap change? Raise awareness, engage every citizen and friends for a united towards a common goal. How do we do that? Okay, whenever there is some disturbance, there is outcry and so on, people march on the streets. Thousands show up on the streets. Well, let's change that. We know that there are water supply scarcities in the country, in different countries. If we redirect those thousands of people on the streets to carry even one piece of rock, okay, towards making that dam or building that road, tremendous change will happen. Instead of spending the whole day clashing with the security groups. take it further. You can establish working teams involving the young, the elders, the business, government, communities, to make them that all of them are acknowledged, or their opinions, their interests are accommodated. If we create those work development teams, then all those shortages can be addressed. So we have to establish partnership with universities, governments, and so on. Okay, formulate a national policy of support, leap change. While doing all this at this stage of our life, if we really mobilize or establish engaged teams across the country and do not bother the government to change, to leave power and so on, we can be able to succeed. It is when we try to run for power that problems arise. So in other words, we have to be systematic in getting lessons from some of the problems that we have went through when we are trying to do radical change. Act now, there is no time to waste. This is a very important statement. The population of Africa is growing at 2.6 to 3% per year, and the productivity means is not growing in par, which means more and more people are getting hungry, getting poorer. So when people are really with no alternatives, they revolt. Crisis after crisis, crisis happens under the face of either religious differences or tribal differences and so on. So if we put productivity ahead with cooperative effort, then we can make a leap change. Well, how do we do this? We have to have an integrated plan, which I just said, a human development plan, economic development plan, and economic feasibility, social and business impact, and so on, and impact on the environment. Those are the things that we have to be doing. Okay, so for EPR, economically, educationally, environmentally, engineered productivity revitalization that I discussed to you for EPR is an embodiment of desirability, visibility, and viability. We discussed those concepts before. For EPR is engaging people into prosperity, raised productivity. That's what for EPR is. It's a social innovation in holistic development. Well, how do we do that? I took, for example, rural Ethiopia. Majority, 80% of Ethiopians live in scattered rural villages, low productivity, hard, short life. Raise awareness, fast-track training, educate people to what is needed, inform about better life, enable them to wish, dream, plan, work.
Could you go back to the slide before here? I mean, somebody on the chat is asking if you can go back to the last slide.
Okay.
Yes.
What's the question?
There's no question. It's just basically maybe more clarification on how these fits together: desirability, feasibility, and viability, I think.
Those are what we call, I said, let's have, for example, a construction project to build water supply to a community. We gather all the people, representatives from the elders, the youth, some people from that area, the government, and some experts. All this can be accumulated instead of, in the same way as we call people to a demonstration, we call people to have this mass action. So that is desirable, okay? People want it, so they come, they are energetic. We have feasibility. There is, by involving the engineers, the educators, the universities, and so on, we are creating a feasible science. Okay, it is viable because instead of that woman collecting water on her head the whole day, we wanted to make sure that this undertaking solves millions of people's water needs by making them work together. Okay, let's build a city. Again, if you, instead of building a school in isolated rural villages, let's bring people together and build their city with a combined effort. So for EPR, economically, educationally, environmentally, engineer, we are going to do the engineering of all this. That is what innovation is all about. That is what holistic means. It touches every aspect of our life plus the environment. Is that clear?
One of the things you did mention earlier on in terms of deconstructing the issues to root causes, one of the things that you flagged up was few elites leaving their country even when the society has better opportunities. Now, the question that was posed last week was around the salary of a highly paid professor in some of these countries is actually less than $400 per month. Thereby, the high caliber and talented professionals go on to the Western world. What strategies are you advising to reverse the brain drain?
All right. First of all, we have to establish certain principles. All of us didn't overnight turn to be engineers, professors, doctors, and so on. It took us ages. Now, let's have trust, belief, dedication, and determination to make a change. Now, when people go out on the street to make a request for a political solution, okay, they are confronted with all kinds of stuff. Now, but if we redirect these people to work together for a combined prosperity, then the country, that prosperity means the contribution of every individual to the local, to the nation's economy grows collectively, which means the state will be able to appreciate the contribution of that doctor who is, suffering with that $400. Okay, now they will be able to get paid more, but at the same time, that $400 sometimes gets farther, a lot farther than $40,000 in the US. Okay, if the productivity of the people creates that abundance in food, electricity, and all other technological facilities, which we are going to build together, that's what that determination, dedication. Let's not rest until everyone has electricity, water supply, and food is produced in abundance. Now, people committed in sending us to school to be trained and solve their own problems, the country's problems. Now, what happens? Ethiopians, Nigerians, elites, instead of applying their skill and changing their country to the better, they just forget everything where they came from and they run away seeking instant gratification. So let's extend this instant gratification and let's build the national economy higher, bigger, vibrant. Let's have the coming generation aspire, plan to have a better life. Okay, AI, artificial intelligence, natural language processing, all these things are not, mysteries. They are now available in Nigeria, in Ethiopia, from your own rooms, through the cloud, in the open network. We can be able to build on those. Now, if we don't turn, we go back and be examples. Engage people to be productive, to be able to work together, build those bridges, build those cities, and have that cooperative endeavors produce fruit. The country will not be able to afford, and if it cannot afford to pay the elites, the graduates are going to be running away, and we cannot be able to stop it. So we have, people who are at this stage have to change our outlook. Okay, and we change the economic system, the social system right now, so that the break is made. Okay, if people get all their acknowledgements, also changing people's lives, then you stop. People who are already in outside countries will come back. Well, let me just give you an example as to what has happened in Ethiopia. Okay, in Ethiopia, at least 2 years, in the last 2 years, many people are coming back. Many people are coming back because at least there is freedom of speech is coming back. People's involvement is coming back, and projects are not taking too long to complete. External participants, external advisors are trying to be reduced. Okay, in other words, when we start the movement creating, well, China didn't create the economy, its economy. It created so many cities so that water supply is cheaper in the city, because that capital investment, that infrastructure is built once, and it can be shared to many people. But if you put a well, that well is going to be too far away. So really, the answer to, a long-sided answer is that we have to build the economy together, so that, all the contributors will be rewarded for what they have done.
Now, following up from what you've just said about the economy, one of the questions on our Q&A, someone is asking, can the economy development of Africa be realistically decoupled from the political economy in various countries? Because all of this is interlinked. So what's your take on that?
Well, let's be clear one thing here, okay? What do we need? When you live in Nigeria, what do you need from the rest of the world? Just tell me. Do you need, the makeup, the glitter, or you need the food? Yeah, okay. The beds, the house can be built from the material resources in there. Okay, the food can be grown there. The water, the three essentials: energy, water, soil, are all there. And we got them without even modifying the air. Okay, you can't live in London if you don't have a heater at this time.
Yeah.
In Nigeria, you don't need it. Okay, so we have all the basic building blocks to build our life. Now, so what is decoupling? Intentionally, the colonizers, when they left, okay, in order to continue sucking resources, made that economic ties. Okay, I told you last time that they didn't create universities in Jamaica until 1975. Although they left far earlier, they make them dependent with the colonies. So the economic integration that is going on with every African country is with the colonizers instead of their neighbors. Well, as I opened this morning, maybe many didn't hear, okay, a new beginning has started in Africa, okay? A free trade, free movement of goods and services between African countries, okay? You can't go without a visa or tariff to be able to trade between your neighbors, okay? Whatever you are getting in other countries, with tariffs, because the colonizers told us to put tariffs so that we can get goods and products from there. Now, what do we need? Solar power, solar lights. What does it take to build those? The technology is as close as your YouTube video. You can get the technology of how to build solar panels, solar technology, solar power in there. So you put your people together and get solar plant in Nigeria. Okay, a refrigeration plant in the neighboring Niger, or another plant in the next neighbor, wherever it is viable, economically feasible, and the resources are there to build it. When you do that, you can decouple and recouple with the neighboring states using your own resources. And that is how we can be able to really nurture the economy. Go ahead.
Fantastic. And now, I mean, you've just touched on education. One of the questions here, I mean, you've given an example. Someone is asking, you talked about education that works for Africa. How best can we design this alternative education? Of course, you've given an example, but then, you know, how can we scale this up? How can we test it? Because that's something else to consider.
Okay. You know what, education, our parents, our ancestors taught us something, okay? If you don't have class, come and help, okay? So many of us used to run after my elementary class, I went to the farm to help. Now, let's do this formal. Let's teach students at every stage and have them do practical work, applying the sciences, the technologies that they learned at every stage, okay? Let them practice, let them be challenged. Go back and learn more and go back and apply it. That makes it just-in-time education. Education that is skills-based, hands-on based. Let's make that, you know, a majority of our education system to be able to make us catch up with the rest of the world. Of course, in parallel, we have to train, you know, our students to work in the quantum physics, in the quantum science, in artificial technology, artificial science, in robotics, and so on. So we have to have a parallel. We have the people, the number of people we are not like Norway with 5 million people and still sitting on the top of the Human Development Index. Okay, we have, you know, nearly 200 million Nigerians. You know, all these people that are in the United States and even considered second-class citizens, so you shouldn't be living there. You will be, you know, prestigiously living in Nigeria. Ethiopians living in many states, the doctors, the scientists, all this can be really productive if they go back. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, there's another one. I think the question you've answered on education on the chat, someone was basically asking, what are the alternatives? I know you've alluded to that in you answering the question. So it says, you indicated in one of the slides, you alluded that the current system of education is not necessarily best suited for African nations. I agree with you. However, what is our option? When do we do not have anything to replace it with? I think he's trying to say, it was a big typo there. Yeah.
Well, anytime we are in a shopping trip now here, okay? We only retain what is favorable to us. Okay, I'm in front of some experts in here in human resource development. Okay, we can pick. If we really reach that consensus, engaged society, they will tell you, we need this, we don't need this. We will build on this. We will send our students, our bright ones, to go and learn this for us. Okay, we have to be in that conscious shopping spree and getting whatever we need. We just don't want to be fed. And by the way, let me tell you one thing, okay? The education system in the world has run its life. It has to be changed. And in many countries, including the developed nations, they are scrambling to change the education system. And for us, we know what we wanted. And what we wanted is an education system that would respond to our immediate urgent needs, as well as our short-term and long-term directions. And those long-term directions are what I indicated in the Human Development Index, in the Sustainable Development Goals, and to be like those our athletes, you know, when among the thousands that are on the course, they are the ones flashing out. We want to be like those.
Now, following up from what you've just said, fantastic, Mr. Tezazu. Someone is asking, how do we then start teaching in African schools the culture of processing raw materials? So, for instance, students are taught to export crude commodities and import refined products in exchange. How can students learn the principles of processing things?
Processing things, okay. Well, tell them your own experience, okay? You go to Nigeria, you can have, you know, some of those raw materials. For example, when I go to Ethiopia, you get a pound of or a kilogram of coffee for $1 US, okay? Starbucks brings it to North America or Europe. They roast it and put some packaging in it, and they sell it $20 per kilogram. All right, 20 times. Okay, what is the difference? So what do we learn? Okay, I told you, let's go and shop. Processing means we have to shop and get it. Now, if crude oil is selling 3 times in the global market, why should we send it in the first place? Okay, well, let me tell you, okay, some of these are long contractual deals which we cannot break. But those contractual deals we have to avoid going into there. For instance, what does it take to have an average 29-year-old or 20-year-old African to be a good engineer, a good surveyor, a good prospector? 4 or 5 years of training? If it's 4 or 5 years of training that is required to prospect that mineral sources out of the ground, why do we go into 20 years, 30 years contract, encumber us with a huge load? So let's really rethink how we are going. And this happens when you put elders, the youth, the people into a cooperative environment, into an engaged decision policy making, that we can be able to decide on our future. Is that clear?
Yeah, fantastic. Now I have another question. The question about decoupling, the person actually came back to say that my question was actually whether we can actually develop Africa without a change in our politics. Most of our freedoms advocated by the professor, that's you, are locked in our politics. So is there a way to develop Africa without a change in the current political climate?
Okay, the direct answer to that individual, okay? If you recall the paradigm shift, cannot do it, okay? That mentality, we have to get it out, okay? 15 years ago, if I told you that we will be talking like this, face to face, you wouldn't have believed me. 15 years ago, if it was, your computer is in your pocket, you wouldn't have believed me. We have to look beyond. There is nothing that can be broken. The political system is built on scarcity mentality. The productivity of the people is so small that the governments do not have enough tax revenues to be able to govern their nation, to respond to the people's wishes and aspirations. Now, if we produce the money, every individual will be, okay, voting with their own funds. Okay, they will not be lured to vote in one direction under a barrel of a gun. Okay, people will not be needing a gun. We don't need guns. We wanted knowledge, sound communication based on that common interest. Everybody talking wise and sound ideas on what is good for the nation. If we do that, that political system would adjust to what the people wants. Okay.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Tezazu. I have one more question, but before you come back for that question, which will be brief, just having a look at our time, I would call in Professor Osiri. He has something to say, please.
I really agree with Mr. Tezazu, and I like your focus on the people, empowering people, which is something we should not take lightly. At the end of the day, we have to figure out ways to empower people at the grassroots level so they can learn to do for themselves. Here's something we have to keep in mind. 1% of the world population owns more than half of its resources. There's a law that I think is a natural law, but we can work that law to our advantage. It's called the price law, which essentially says that the square root of the population accounts for 50% of its output. That's the price law. So if we are 10 people in an organization, 3 people of the 10 are responsible for 50% of the output. If we're 100, 10 people are responsible for 50% of the output. If we're 1,000, 31 people are responsible for the output. If we are 10,000, only 100 people are responsible for 50% of the output of 10,000 people. So if you look at the world, what's happening, you see it's shaken out based on price law. And the way to deal with that price law is to empower the individual so that we can become more intelligent, smarter, more industrious, more intentional, and become productive at the individual level. So that's why I really appreciate his narrative about individual empowerment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Siri.
Professor Osiri, I appreciate what you said, but let's take what's happening in today's world, okay? What we see now is funny money, okay? Zoom, it's worth now $160 billion, okay? $160 billion. This company didn't exist in 2016, okay? So technology, Amazon didn't exist, Tesla didn't exist, Facebook didn't exist, same 10, 15 years ago, okay? They are the few now that is owning the world, okay? They can buy Nigeria, okay? With, or part of Nigeria, Amazon can buy because they have $2 trillion, okay? That is funny money that we have not been exposed, engaged, okay, to be able to explore it. The past was to be able to take a piece of oil field with a gun. Now it's not even a gun, it is those keyboards, okay? You and I can be able to put our head here and learn artificial intelligence to be able to do that interactive system. It's as simple as that. Let's get this awareness, and in time, as you said, society would adjust the pricing system, telling them we cannot be able to take it. We'll create our own, okay? Instead of being dictated by Google, China developed Baidu, a search engine, okay? China developed the alternatives of, Facebook, the alternatives of Amazon, and so on. We can do it for Africa. We are going to be the biggest people, the biggest economy in the world. The future is in front of us. Let's form it in our own image. Is that clear? I think we should part with this.
No, thank you so very much, Mr. Tezazu. We have a last question, but I think we've just run out of time, unfortunately. So we'll definitely bring you back on board, because you've said quite a lot of things. And when we're talking about mindset and the paradigm shift, there's a lot that I think that you can probably help a majority of us on this platform. I want to say thank you to everyone who has chimed into the Global Ubuntu Dialogue today, and to our special guest, Mr. Tezazu. Thank you for joining us as well. Thank you everyone for coming today, and I'm sure you guys will come on board next week. Thank you for your time, and a very happy new year to all of you. We are looking forward to greater things in future. Have a wonderful day ahead. Bye-bye.
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Booyala, booyala, mama, hey.